So what is today's lesson about? I want to talk about hyperbolas, but before I start, I want you to tell me how you feel about hyperbolas out of 10. As we start today, the function, the hyperbola, what is your score out of 10 at the moment to rate you understanding? Where 10 is perfect, 0 is nothing, 5 is like okay, but it needs to improve. Where is your understanding? Okay. So thanks everyone. Thanks Nomfundo, thanks Bukle, thanks Anushka, thanks Njabolo. Okay, everyone has, there we go. All right. So if we think about what it means to do well with hyperbolas, the one is to be able to sketch hyperbolas. And then the other part is going to be find the equation of a hyperbola. And when we say find the equation, that's going to be the main focus today. What are the different things that we can find? And basically, the values that we need to find are sort of the constant value above the fraction line. There's going to be the horizontal shift value, and then there's going to be the vertical shift value. So A, P, and Q. If we can find these values for a particular hyperbola, we have found that equation. So before we go to that, let's just have a quick look at some summary stuff. So you've seen this before about hyperbolas, but if A is greater than 0, then we'll be in quadrant 1. Let me do it. Quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. And if A is less than 0, then we would be in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. And so this is a basic hyperbola, but then we can also have, once this starts changing, it shifts horizontally, and here it shifts vertically. Okay, so I think that's what we did in the previous lesson. Now, I want to see, can you draw for me? Today we're going to start with a bit of a revision. There were 3 steps that I made you do to draw a hyperbola, and we're going to try and draw this hyperbola. What was step 1 going to be from the last lesson? Pop it in the chat. Tell me what you think. What you think is going to be. So what is step 1? So the step 1, not turning point. Oh, all right, I got excited there. Step 1 is to write down the asymptotes. So the asymptotes are the parts of the hyperbola where it cannot go. And there's going to be normally, well, not always, but well, actually there will be. There'll be 2 of them. There'll be y equal to something, and there will be x equal to something. So in this hyperbola, what will the asymptote for y be, and what will the asymptote for the x be? So we get asymptotes when we may not go there, or when we have division by 0. And so what would cause division by 0 for the x? Look where the x plus 1 is. So if x was 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, that's fine. But actually, it's going to be x is minus 1. That's where the asymptote will be, because that would force this thing to be 0. And then the other asymptote will be just this thing at the end. It'll be minus 4. So on the graph, when we try and draw it, in fact, I can even do this for you now, because at last week at the end, we were saying, wait till the end before you do it. But I'll show you now, just so that you have a good feel for it. If we have a Cartesian plane, let me just zoom in. So if I have a Cartesian plane like that, and I'm going to draw my hyperbola still, okay, so I haven't, done all the working out I need to do. But basically what this is saying is that this will be an asymptote here. X is minus 1. And then the other one will be minus for 1, 2, 3, 4. So the other one will be y is minus 4. So what we can see is that this one is the horizontal asymptote, that one is the vertical. Now our graphs are either going to go here and here or here and here. What's my next step going to be in drawing the hyperbola? The intercepts, yes. Now, there aren't always going to be intercepts. If I think about what is happening in this graph, the +1 has shifted it to the left. But actually, if I want to think about what quadrants it's going to be in, I'm going to look at this one, that number. And that number says I should be in quadrant 2 and 4, but it's almost like the quadrants have moved. So basically, I'm expecting it to be here and to be there. Now, it looks like there should be X and Y intercepts. So we are going to try and find those. So I want you to find me the Y intercept, and I want you to find me the X intercept for this hyperbola. I'll even make that equation a little bigger so you can see it. That is the equation of the hyperbola. What is the y-intercept? What is the x-intercept? Maybe I should move it even down here. And then you pop your answer in the chat when you've got it. I know with the y-intercept, I must make x naught. What are you guys getting for your y-intercept? I'll give you some time. Sorry, this is the x-intercept I'm working out. Sorry, everyone. That was being a bit silly. I was finding the x-intercept. So if you're feeling confused, don't worry, you're not alone. To find the y-intercept, I need to make x 0. So that calculation will be a bit easier. So minus 2 over 1 is minus 2 minus 4. I get minus 6. So I want to know, does anybody have a disagreement there or a question? Because that, that was interesting. So to find the x-intercept, I made y equal to 0. That's why there's a 0 here. Then I moved the 4 across. Then I moved the x plus 1 across. Then I moved the 4 back. And that's the same as a half. And then I took away another 1. And that's why I get minus 1.5, or this. For the y-intercept, I made x 0. So you'll see there's a 0 plus 1. Minus 2 over 1 is minus 2. Take away 4 is minus 6. Give me a thumbs up if you understand how I got those intercepts. Okay. Then I want you to draw this graph. And once you've drawn it, I want you to say done in the chat. So you draw the graph now. And I want you to say done in the chat when you are done drawing it. Where would minus 3 over 2 be? I guess it would be kind of over here. And where would minus 6 be? it would be down here. I like putting the dots where I'm going to draw through, but you need to draw in what you think the graph is going to look like. And then once you're done, you put done in the chat. Let me try again. Are there any questions or comments about anything that I've done? So you may be saying, what was the third step? The third step was actually doing the sketch. So this was intercepts, asymptotes, intercepts, sketch. Any questions or comments before I move on to another example? I think we should probably draw another one of these just to get completely comfortable. So while I am waiting for questions, for those who feel comfortable, can you draw me the graph of k of x? I want you to draw me the hyperbola using the 3 steps that I just showed you. And then I'll wait for any questions or comments from anyone else who would like to clarify anything from that example. Otherwise, if you feel comfortable, you know it's a 3-step process. So ask yourself, what is step 1? What is step 2? What is step 3? Okay. What are the asymptotes going to be? X is -2 and y is -1/2. So we say what value will force division by 0 here? And then for this one, we just go and look, what is this value at the end? Now we have to find the x and y intercepts, which are a bit harder. So I'll give you time. Okay, let's see what we get. So for my y-intercept, I get 5 over 2 is 2.5 minus a half. So this is 2. So the y-intercept would be 0, 2 if you want the whole point. The x-intercept, I haven't finished, but I moved the half across. And then what I could do is I could move the whole bracket across. And then if I times both sides by 2 or divide both sides by a half, I get x plus 2 is 10. And then if I take away 2 from both sides, I get 8. Did anybody get, so then the thing would be 8, 0, or the intercept would be that. Did anybody get that? Give me a yes in the chat if you got the 8. Give me a no if you didn't. Okay, I want you now to draw the hyperbola all by yourself. Step 3 is to sketch. I want to give you 2 minutes to do that. And then I'm going to move on to the second part of the lesson. So I want you to sketch me the hyperbola. And then once you finish sketching it, I want you to say done in the chat. Okay, now where is 8, 0? I guess 8 would be down here. And then where's the y-intercept? It's 2, which is here. Which kind of shows you that this has to be in this quadrant, right? Because it wouldn't be able to do this otherwise. So excuse my, that's actually a terrible hyperbola. Apologies. Let me try again. So I know that it's going to be on this side. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and make it look, oh, it's really not great yet, but my scale is not great. But then, that's also not good. My pen is misbehaving today. The hyperbola is going to look like this. Now, sometimes we have to label another point on this hyperbola. So this hyperbola was called K, and I can label it K, but the equation of the hyperbola was just y equals 5 over x plus 2 minus a half, or actually they wrote it as K of x. Now, if I want to find another point on the another side here, I need an x value that I can put into the formula. What x value should I use to get me a point on this side? What type of x value should I use? Because I'm going to label another point. Because sometimes they say label a point, an extra point. Would everyone be okay with me choosing -3? Like -3, if x is -3, and then I want you to work out what is the value of the k of -3. Can you work out what the k of -3 is? Because if you work that out, then I will know what the y value is that goes with x is -3. So this is like an upgrade question. You got a free upgrade. Aren't you lucky? What is the k of -3 going to be equal to? What is the k of -3 going to be equal to? So if I go -3 plus 2, I get -1. So this would be 5 over -1 minus a half, which is -5.5 or -11 over 2. And so if they asked you to label another point on the graph, all that you need to do is put an x value in. And once you put the x value, you get a y value that comes out, and you get that from the equation. Give me a thumbs up if you understood that little upgrade bit that I did there. Give me a thumbs down if you didn't understand it. I was trying to show you how to get an extra point on a hyperbola if you need to. And what I've noticed is I haven't actually labeled my axes, so I should still do that. So that was a 2, and this was an 8. Okay. All right, cool. So I think now, okay, so Pila, what I want you to do is if you look at when we did function notation in lesson 1 or 2, so when I kind of evaluated something like the f of 2, have a look at that and also re-watch this example when you have a moment, okay? Because it's important to understand how to generate points on the function. Okay, let us go to the second part of today. Oh, what happened there? Which is finding the equation of a hyperbola. So I'm going to do a little example of this before we go to our break, and then after the break, that's what we're going to do here. So this is a set of questions. Determine the equations of the following graphs. Now, there are many types of functions, but we're going to focus on the hyperbolas. So that's a hyperbola, that's a hyperbola, and that's a hyperbola. So those are the questions we're gonna think about after the break. Let me show you how you find the equation of a hyperbola. Now, they say, okay, I'm going to rewrite the standard form in the way that they use minus p. It doesn't really make a big difference. But for now, I'm going to use the standard form that's consistent. Okay, so this is what they give us. They say, a hyperbola passes through the point -4 minus 8.5, and it passes through the point 0 minus 7.5. So those are 2 points. It also says that the y asymptote is -8. Now, what value, A, P, or Q, can I replace because of this information over here, this green bit? So which value? Can I take A, P, or Q? So because they tell me the y asymptote is -8, I can replace one of the values, and the value that I'm going to replace is Q. It's going to be -8. All right, that wasn't so hard. Now, the next part is I need to find what A is, and I need to find what P is. All right. So how do we find values that are unknown here? So we don't know, well, if x was 0, let's have a look here. We don't know. Well, let's tell you what do we normally do? We sub in the points. So let's take this one and sub it into the equation. So we're going to get y equals a over 0 plus p minus 8. But the y can actually be what? What should the y be? The y should be -7.5. So what did I do there? I put the x, I'll let you kind of follow along with this 0 went here, and this bit here went here. Give me a thumbs up if you followed that. Give me a thumbs down if you didn't follow that. I want to see some thumbs in the air. Okay, now I'm going to clean up this equation a little bit. I'm going to bring this +8 to the side. So it's going to become 8 minus 7.5 equals A over P. And then what's 8 minus 7.5? It's just a half. So we've got a half equals A over P. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the P to the other side, and I get A is equal to a half P. Give me a thumbs up if you follow that part there, where I moved the 8 to the other side. It became a positive 8. And then I move the P here, and I get this equation. All right, now we have used the 1 point over there. We now need to use the other point. Now I'm going to give you I'm not going to do the whole thing now. I'm going to give you a break. But can you see how I've used the 1 point? Now, to find the second point, I'm going to say for y is minus 8.5 equals a over x. Now, what is x going to be? If y is minus 8.5, what should x be when I put a value in now? I want you to follow the numbers, and I want you to tell me what number am I going to put here now? So it has to come from here. So this is going to be -4. And what is the value at the end going to be? It's still going to be -8. All right. Now, I'm going to bring things across to the other side. So I'm going to get minus 8.5 plus 8 equals A over -4 plus P. Then I've got minus a half equals A over -4 plus P. What do you think my next step is going to be? Because I'm trying to create a simultaneous equation here. What do you think? Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll just leave it like this, but we'll see. Yeah. So you know what? I was going to bring the whole thing across, but you know what? I'm going to leave it like this for now. And after the break, we are going to come back and we're going to finish it. But can you see how I took my 2 points and I put them in, and I made equations, and now I have an equation in A and in P. And so after the break, I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to solve this simultaneously. Okay, but let's just do a quick little power break to get our brains moving. So I want you to stand up with me quickly. It's just going to be a quick little rotation like this, just to loosen up. Okay. And then let's roll the shoulders back. Let's roll the shoulders forward. Okay, then let's do a quick stretch like this. And hold. And stretch on the other side. And then shake it out. Shake out your arms. Shake out your legs. And then just a quick 12 jumping jack session so we get blood moving on our bodies. In 3, 2, 1, let's go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that is our little exercise break for today, so that our bodies don't suddenly start thinking maths isn't important. Bukle, I see your hand is up. Can I come to you and ask you, what is your question?
Oh, no, I left it up. I wanted to answer before the break.
No problem. Perfect. Okay, so let's go back and solve this problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the simultaneous equation method called substitution. And when I solve, I can't even spell it right now, but anyway, I'm going to take what I call the easy one, and I'm going to sub it into the harder one. So what I do here is I'm going to go minus a half equals, and where there's an A, I'm going to put a half P. Give me a thumbs up if you understand how this thing over here is connected to this thing over here, and ultimately it ends up over here. Okay, now what I want to do is I just want to solve this. So I'm going to move this thing at the bottom, which is making my life difficult, to the other side. So I've basically I moved, it was division, it becomes multiplication, then a negative times a negative, that will be positive 2. This multiplied here will be minus a half p, and this is equal to a half p. If I then bring this to the other side, I get a half p plus a half p, which is glorious news. So p must be equal to 2. Now, if I know that p is equal to 2 in this question, what is a going to be equal to? Who has any ideas? If you look at the relationships I've built, what would a be if you know that p is 2? Pop what you think in the chat. Could we use this thing here? I think a is a half times something. And what is that something going to be? It's going to be a 2. So what does a have to be? So what's a half times 2? A half times 2 would be 1. Yes. So I know that was a bit of a journey, but let's go back to the beginning and see, didn't we have to solve for the equation of the hyperbola that looked like this? So you found that a was 1. You found that x plus p, so it was x plus 2. And then what was the thing at the end? It was minus 8. So the equation of the hyperbola would be that. Now, that was quite a difficult one, but it wasn't impossible. So give me a thumbs up if you felt like you followed that. Give me a thumbs down if you feel like you didn't follow that. I'll show you what another question can look like. Okay, let's go to an example from a past paper to show you what these questions. Actually, that was harder than the one that I'm going to do now. So let me just quickly move things down here. Okay, this one is actually probably quite easy. All right. I like writing it in the form, sometimes you see textbooks write it like this. I prefer writing the standard form like that because all of the graphs have plus p involved, but it depends on which way you're doing it. Let's start by looking at this. What if I wanted to find the equation of the hyperbola and I gave you this information, what would be the easiest values to find first? Would it be the a? Would it be the p? Or would it be the q? Which value do you think is the easiest to see from this one? Give me the value of the thing that you want. If you know what A is, or you know what Q is, or you know what P is, just looking at this graph. This is a hyperbola. What is interesting is there's an asymptote here, but you know what? There's another one that is hiding over here. So maybe that could help some of you. Which value would you write down first? Okay, now P. Okay, so what you're going to notice here is that this is where it'll be interesting. P is going to be basically going to be minus 2. So if you were drawing this graph, the way to think about it is you would have that. okay, at the bottom, because the value of 2 is what would make this. So it's plus minus 2 essentially, or minus 2. That's why they like that bit, I suppose. Yeah. Do we know what this Q value is going to be? So P is going to be minus 2. It's kind of weird, but the reason is if this is 2, it causes division by 0. What would the Q value be? It would be 0. Well done. Yes. Because this, if you think about it, what are the asymptotes? The asymptotes here are x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 0. Right? So that's going to be the equations of the asymptotes. Yeah. Okay, now we need to find what A is. We know that the graph so far of this hyperbola is that. How am I going to find what this A value is? What's the only other piece of information I haven't used? I was thinking there's a point 0, 1 that is on this hyperbola. Can't you use that point to help you find what A is? Perfect, Manila, perfect, Naledi. So put that in and see if you can find me what A is. What value do you get for A? So this plus 0, actually, we can just leave it out. So what value are you going to get for A if it looks like that? I think the minus 2, yeah, we're looking for this thing over here. We're looking for that value, Buchle. So I think if it's divide on this side, it would become times on that side, and A would be equal to minus 2. Because remember, it's a multiplication, hey? So when it comes to its division on this side, if it goes to the other side, it becomes multiplication. And what's minus 2 times 1? It's just minus 2. So the equation of this hyperbola is actually just going to be y over minus 2 for the A, x minus 2, and then you can write plus 0, or you can just leave it like that. That would be the equation of the hyperbola. And that makes sense because look at where the hyperbola is. It's in the negative quadrants. Are there any questions or comments? I'm going to do another one now with you like this. So let's give a chance to, if there are any questions or comments. Okay. Let's go look at another past, maybe exam question or something like that. That's a little bit small. Let's see if I can get a bigger one. Yeah. Oh, what's going on? Okay. Here is, I'll make that bigger. Here's the question that it came from. No, that doesn't help, does it? Right, don't give the domain. Okay, let's go to this one over here. Will be the last one we do today. So if we look at this hyperbola, let me just move it out so you can see it. It's rather large at the moment. Okay, so there is a hyperbola, And it comes from a past exam paper. And our goal is to find the equation of this hyperbola. Now, the first thing to realize is that it's a little bit confusing because the dotted lines don't look so dotted. So let me help you by saying, look, the X and Y intercepts are here. So this is the the Y axis, and this is the X axis. So let's not get that confused because visually it looks like the asymptotes are here, right? So these are the lines that the hyperbola may not cross. Can I ask you to please write down the asymptotes? So it's going to be y equals something, x equals something. Write down the equation of the asymptotes, which are the dotted lines here. And then after you've done that, we will try and find the equation of this hyperbola g, which looks like this and looks like this. But before we even have a go at the hyperbola, I want you to find me what are the asymptotes here. So what line is this one over here? It's going to be 2. And so it's going to be x is 2 for this one. That's going to be x is 2. What is the equation of the horizontal asymptote going to be? And where would I look? I think looking here is important. I think this is going to be a 6. Okay, now, if you are writing in, you know that the standard form of a hyperbola is going to have a space here, there's going to be a space here, and there's going to be a space here. Okay? What is going to go over here at the end? I think there has to be a plus 6. What is going to go over here in the green block? Now remember, asymptotes you're not allowed to go there, and you need division by 0. So what's going to go in this block over here? Okay, it's not going to be plus 2. And this is where it's x, whatever the asymptote is, you go x minus whatever the asymptote is. So since this was a 2, and the reason that works is that if you put 2 in there, it causes division by 0. So just a tip, if you have got the asymptote and you need to work backwards to the equation for, it's just going to be x minus whatever the asymptote was. All right, now you have to work out what this a value is. What are you going to use to help you figure out the a value? What are you going to use to help you figure out the a value? Yes. And you must use not this one over here. You need to use this coordinate that you haven't used yet. So you are going to sub in the point 5/2, 0. And I want you to use that to help me find what a is. What is the a going to be? Okay, what am I going to do next? So I think I've subbed it incorrectly. The 0 is the y, so it goes here. And the x goes there. Now, what do I need to do? I guess I could clean it up a little bit. I could bring the 6 to this side. And then what's 5 over 2? It's 2.5. So this is going to be a half. Then I bring the half to the other side and I get a. So what is a going to be when I go minus 6 times? So basically this, it was division. When it comes across, it becomes multiplication. So minus 6, that must be minus 3. And so the equation of the hyperbola should be minus 3 over x minus 2 plus 6. And because they said it was the g of x, and I think they wanted us to write it like that. Now, I'm going to do one more little upgrade before we finish tonight. I want you to find me what is the g of minus 4. Find me the value of the g of minus 4, just understanding how function notation works. I'm putting in an x value of minus 4. What is the y value? What do you get out of that? Let's have a look. The lady, let's see if I agree. So all you need to do is replace the x with minus 4. Oh, wait, and the 2 must hang out over there underneath. So what do we have now? The g of minus 4 is minus 3 over minus 6 plus 6. And then this would just be a half plus 6. So the g of minus 4 is equal to 6.5, or 13 over 2. And that is that. Okay, everyone.